This video covers additional strategies and gets more into profitability within the manufacturing game. This video itself is part of the series that goes along with the supplemental ERPsim SAP Labs and textbook. Again, presuming that you have ERPsim experience, you're using this textbook, you've used the manufacturing game before, you have some strategy experience so far, and you're looking to get just a bit more strategic. How can you increase your profitability? So again, we'll talk about quantifying your decisions and then some more information about dividing your roles. This is a follow-up to a previous video, so make sure you have watched the previous video. This is more strategies, and the other one is an overview of strategies. So all strategies come together to really increase your net income. So all of your strategies, even a poor strategy, changes your net income. It's a negative net income, but you want to have a positive net income. So this is very simple. Revenue minus expenses equals net income, your profitability. So there's two ways to increase your net income. You can increase your revenue, or you can decrease your expenses. If you can do both, even better. The net income feeds right into your company valuation, so increasing your net income will only be better for your final rankings within ERPsim. The overall strategy recommendation as you're getting into more complex strategy: quantify your decisions. I listen to students playing this, working through the simulation, and I hear them say things like, I think we should increase marketing. No, that's not quantifying. What I should be hearing is something like, based on the Z market report, if we increase marketing, we should see a 10% increase in profit. It might be wrong, but at least it's been quantified. And once it's been quantified and it's wrong, you can see why it's wrong. And you can try something else. So we'll often hear things like, should we change the price? I think you should change the price. No, it should be quantified. You should have calculations that say, this is the price. This is how much marketing. This is how much we should invest. And again, it might be wrong, but at least it's been quantified. You believe it to be correct until you are proven otherwise, and then you readjust. Within all of these, as you're working through your strategy, quantify your decisions. Use any external tools, analyze the data. You can export or copy and paste into whatever, and then calculate. Excel is a natural place to start with it. The SAP reports themselves can be copied and pasted right into Excel. And then you can manipulate it however you'd like. So you can do pivot tables, you can put a data model together, whatever you might want to do. So everything you need is available in real time, so you can just quantify everything. There shouldn't be any guesswork within your strategy. Just to kind of solidify this, sometimes I play against students in my class, and they may or may not understand, not realize that I'm playing. But one of the things that I've done in the past is I'll do a strategy that is low priced with a very limited profit. I've calculated it, so I'm going for selling in volume, but I know what my cost is. I have mine quantified. I end up eating up all the demand for a few products, and students can see in the Z market report that there's a lot being sold. Sometimes it works out that I'm losing money in doing it, and students continue to compete with me. That is an issue. If you don't know what your cost is, and all you're doing is looking at the Z market report and going lower than the Z market report, well, somebody else might be doing a low cost, high volume. They might even be lower than their cost. If you're competing with them, you are losing money. So I'll hear students say, let's lower the price. What? You have not quantified your decision. So again, I hear this all too often. Something like the Z market report shows €3.72 as the average price. We should drop our price, or we should increase marketing. How do you know that dropping your price below €3.72 is still profitable? Unless you've done that calculation, you might be selling below cost. If you increase your marketing, how do you know that the marketing you're putting in is going to end up being within your profit? So quantify your decisions, don't guess. If you don't know, why are you doing it? So again, I will have students who have negative net income or they're not doing as well, and they'll ask me, why isn't this working? And I'll say, well, show me your calculations. it is unlikely they have calculations. So again, quantify. So spend time outside of class on this. I've said this a few times. You need to be, if you're trying to figure this out while the simulation is running, you're not going to do as well. You need to spend some time outside of the simulation, going back and looking at old data, and just really map out what you know. Quantify strategies before you start. Based on what you had, how can you change things? How can you tweak things? Run a sensitivity analysis on the different variables. What can you do to increase your profit? Do all of that before you start the simulation. And then, if it doesn't work, well, figure out what happened. If it does work, there you go. You've got it. So within class during the simulation, how will you determine if your strategy is working? That's part of what you're going to be building into this. So again, there is no set it and forget it. You're going to want to try something, and it may work for round 1. It doesn't work for round 2. So you need a different strategy for round 2, a different strategy for round 3, or it may be a continuation of the same strategy that is tweaked. So again, make sure that you are working on things outside of class and then adjusting it within the simulation itself. I mentioned this in the previous video, dividing the roles. And again, remember to cross-train in case someone is not available for an important class, an exam maybe. You have the 3 different roles that I've mentioned. Again, there's 2 of these are divided into 2 other roles. If you have 4 people in your group, divide it up however, 3 people, 2 people. But for sure, you have one person who's the production manager, and then you want another person who's kind of doing pricing, marketing, inventory, and another one who's on the strategy side. So, and how you divide those up, that's up to you and your group and your strengths and weaknesses, but make sure at least you have production managers set up so it's one person doing it. Getting into a bit more of what this person would do, they are literally running production. So no one else should be part of this process. So this is the production process itself, MD01 to CO41, watching the production schedule, the purchase order tracking. You want one person doing this because you don't want somebody running MRP on the wrong day, out of turn. You don't want somebody converting in a way that is not matching the strategy. So one person is doing everything for production. This is the one person that you ask questions about production. They have built into their role some built-in wait. So the lead time, waiting for the raw materials. This person is built in for strategizing on whatever it might be product-wise. So they have a pretty good handle, they should have a good handle on what's being produced, what is not selling well, based on the lot sizes that are coming through for production orders. So they're a good person to be working with. But again, they have a lot of hurry up and wait. They fly through the production process, and then they're waiting. So that's built in to be able to look at some of the reports and actually strategize. Price and inventory manager, watch the sales reports, what's selling. The Z market report, remember, it's updated every 5 days. It compares the industry. If another group, another set of groups are selling a product that you aren't, you can try to figure out why. Remember, the Z market report is updated every 5 days, but if we are playing multiple rounds, it doesn't actually have the history from that first round. It ends up dropping off. So if the Z market report is something that you want to actually keep outside, if you want to be able to log back in and take a look at it, you'll actually want to keep that one as you're going through. So just copy and paste it into a spreadsheet to get the full Z market report. Pricing inventory managers, keeping track of the prices, keeping track of the sales. You're quantifying. You're always quantifying your decisions. You're adjusting as necessary. And really, no one else should be doing this. You should only have one person who changes prices. And this may be the same person who does the marketing. They may be the person who's following the sales reports. It all depends on how you divide it up. But only one person should be doing some of these roles. You don't want multiple people changing pricing, multiple people changing marketing. The strategy product manager, watch the overall costs. This is the person who's kind of, in some way, leading the group. I don't want to say they're the leader, but they're kind of making sure everybody's on track. Consider strategies for winning in-game. So you should be working on things outside of class, but if you're finding it's not working, or maybe you can tweak it even more, move forward with it, try it. Make sure that you're quantifying your strategy for the company. There shouldn't be any I think or maybe we should. Everything you need is there. So you'll need to look at various reports to pull it together, but it's all there. Nothing is hidden. So it's all there if you pull the reports together and manipulate them the way they need to be. If you find yourself with idle time and positive net income, your profitability is great, Your company valuation is great. Somehow you're twiddling your thumbs. If you're still in the extended manufacturing game, this would be a time to start looking at the sales reports. The detailed sales order report has a lot more information compared to the Z market. What's selling where, maybe blueberry selling in northern Germany but not in southern Germany. That's an interesting thing for you to note for coming up with a strategy, but it also factors right into the logistics in the next part. These are all within this. You can see things like maybe the north likes blueberry, the half-kilogram blueberry. Well, what can you do to get the south to like it? All these things come together. So spend some time getting more detailed into the reports and work on them in real time. So net income and your expenses, again, we're going for the company valuation, but the net income is really going to be factoring into it. You do have real-time net income available within SAP. F.01 is the big financial statement. It's combination balance sheet income statement. So everything ends up being in there that you would need. But don't forget that there's ZF01. It's one line. It's easy to read. It'll tell you pretty quickly if you have positive net income. And it also refreshes. It has a refresh button on it. F.01, you have to back out and go back in to get to it. ZF01, if all you want to see is your net income, click refresh. What ZF01 doesn't show is your expenses, and all of that ends up being an F.01. So you'll want to take a look at that. This should be a role within your company, someone watching your expenses. How can you reduce them, and how does it fit within your greater strategy? Sometimes you have to spend money to make money. So are you actually making money as your expenses are going up? So look at your financial statement, F.01, and you can see some of the expenses. So one to note here, interest expense. You're paying interest for a loan. That's one of your strategic decisions. Do you want to pay down your loan? It's 8 million euro if you don't do anything. And I believe this was on about day 12 within round 1. So it's costing you about 30,000 euro every 10 days. Is that something you want to continue having as an expense? It also has marketing expenses, and it's by product as well. So you can see if someone accidentally adds a 0 to the end of the amount they're trying to put in for advertising, try to cut that off before it's an issue. So watch your expenses within your income statement and balance sheet. If you're sitting on cash, pay down your loan. So you start out with that 8 million euro loan. The interest expense does accumulate during the simulation. You can pay it down. This is on the job aid. So it's FB50. This goes right on the general ledger. And this is the general overview of how to enter the transaction and enter the information. This isn't as intuitive. It's the same transaction code for setup time reduction and increasing capacity. An item to note with the setup time reduction is that it is an instant expense. It is instantly, as soon as you click save, it's lobbed off of your net income. If you increase capacity, it's added to your depreciation expense. So just realize that this is, if you put in 1 million here and 1 million here, this is going to lob off 1 million. It's a 1 million euro expense instantly. This one you're paying a percentage on your depreciation. These are all FB50, these two here, and then also the loan repayment here. If you need step-by-step instructions for this, and you probably will the first couple of times you do this, if you go to Lab 3 within the supplemental text, it actually tells you how to do this. And the only difference between this and this is this here, this account number here, and on the loan repayment, right there. So the instructions within Lab 3 will tell you how to do FB50, so don't feel like you have to understand what this is. The supplemental text does have that for you. More strategies. Changing your bill of material. You have 12 different products that are available. Change the recipe. Is there a product that is or isn't worth holding on to? You can't sell it. There's no reason that you need to hold on to it. You have 12 products. If one of the 12 isn't selling, sell the other ones. If one you can't keep on your shelves, stop selling the other ones. Just sell that one. Again, just kind of think these things through, make sure it's quantified. That'd be something you can kind of maybe use more of a gut feel to see, well, we're not selling it. You don't have to really quantify to say, oh, well, we shouldn't be selling it because we can't sell it. But we can sell that one, let's do that one. Figuring out the forecast is something that should be quantified, but figuring out the product might be something that you can just do without quantifying. You also want to reduce your warehouse expenses. So if you're doing just-in-time inventory, where you are receiving your raw materials as you need them for production, you shouldn't have extra warehouse expenses for raw materials. So you can see that you have space for 250,000 kilograms of raw materials, and for the packaging, 750,000 units. If you exceed that, if it's 250,001, it's 1,000 euro a day. 750,001, it's 100 euro a day. The finished products themselves, you have space for 250,000. That's 500 euro a day if you go up to 250,001. So make sure you're selling and try to get your raw material inventory just in time so you're not exceeding this. You can find out where you stand by looking at the inventory report, ZMB52, and it'll show you this is how many finished goods you have. So this team is very close to reaching their capacity for finished goods. Raw materials, they're over. Packaging, they're over. And that ends up showing up under operating expenses in the financial statement. So warehousing costs, they are paying 47,600 euro. This is cumulative. So this is added up. All those daily expenses are showing up here. Again, this is one of those things that SAP isn't going to pop up with a window and say, by the way, you've exceeded your capacity. You now need to go do something, or you're going to start paying this expense. No, it just does it. It automatically happens. There's no fanfare. There's no explanation. It just happens. If you don't look here to see that it's happening, and you don't look here to see how much it is, you'll have no idea it's happening. You might just reach the end and say, why is my net income so low? Once you start looking at where the expenses are coming from, that's when you'll find it. Mention this in another video. Utilize everything you've learned ever. So if you recognize these from an econ class where you have the perfect price to match the quantity of demand on the demand curve, all of these, if this makes sense to you, you should invest your time in calculating that. So the simulation is programmed. It's based on formulas, algorithms, it's all math. You can exploit the system. If you figure out the math behind it, you can actually make it so that you have the perfect price for every product, the perfect forecast, everything, the perfect investment. You have a lot of calculations to do to make that happen, but if you take the time, you will find it. And I've had groups, at least one per semester, that's probably 15, 16 different groups, at least one who does this, who actually takes the time and they really exploit the system. So use everything you've learned in other classes, so econ, finance, marketing, all those things. You're literally running a company within a simulated market. All of that comes together. So quantify your decisions, work on this outside of class. If you're wondering, why do I have negative net income? Again, I routinely ask students who ask me this, why do I have negative net income? And I'll ask, show me your calculations. And they don't have anything. So why are you doing what you're doing? I'll also have students who come up with an idea, strategy, and they don't think it through. So maybe they think, if we have our forecast set for 1 million for 6 different products, we'll always have things in stock. Well, they're not taking into consideration their warehouse expenses. So these are the kinds of things you need to be thinking it through. You can't just say a higher forecast does this, or an investment in this will do that. You need to calculate it. So why is it your strategy? This relates to pricing as well. It's not guesswork. It's not set it and forget it. You will always be changing your pricing. You'll be adjusting your marketing. So pricing in ERPsim, it's looking at multiple reports, and it's a complex formula. It's not something like X plus Y% is my price. And sometimes I'll see students do that, where they will, I'll say something about quantifying, and they'll show me something like this, using Excel as a calculator instead of having something complex. So this is not the way of coming up with your pricing. Not just this. So you need to have more to it. Remember, when it comes to price, you can plug in the numbers. If this makes sense to you, you can have the perfect price within the simulation. Remember, cost will change. This is not something that will not always be here. It will change as the cost change, as the variable cost change. So you'll constantly be updating it. But if you're not quantifying your strategy, you're just guessing. If you're thinking, but I took econ a long time ago, And unless you do this all the time, this is not something you can just do. So it's something you want to look up. Try to find your old class notes or look online somewhere. Figure it out, calculate it, find the perfect price. But just always be quantifying your decisions. Guesswork will not give you a winning strategy. Net income, really, if you have negative net income, do not consider any of these strategies. Figure out why you're failing. It's probably either your productivity or your sales strategy. It shouldn't take much to get your productivity up. It shouldn't take much to get your sales going. So the slightest adjustment should be making a difference in your sales. Changing your forecast is probably going to make a difference with your productivity. It shouldn't take that much tweaking to get to positive net income. Once you have positive net income, you need to have a strategy for being competitive. Remember, some strategies take 3, 4, 5, 6 rounds to actually get the return. So think that through. If you're only playing 4 rounds of the manufacturing game, you may not have enough to get your full return on your investment. But so make sure that you make it so that you get the return within the number of rounds you'll be playing. Make sure that you review past data. Log back into an old SAP client, look at your data, consider it an unassigned group project. So talk about this outside of the simulation, talk with your group, come up with a strategy. The client is available after each game. It should be around for at least a week, maybe longer, maybe a little less. Talk to your instructor. But log back in. Figure out what's in the reports. Be prepared to use those reports in real time based on what you've come up with. Quantify your strategy. So overall, quantify your decisions, separate the roles within your company, make sure your productivity is up, get a handle on your costs of your expenses, and put effort into this outside of the simulation. With that, you should at least have a quantified strategy, and hopefully it turns out to be a winning strategy. And if not, keep calculating, keep quantifying, keep looking through the reports.